All right, good morning, everyone. We would like to welcome you to the Department of Local Government Finance webinar about the 2020 Sales Disclosure Data Submission process and the compliance reviews that the department conducts involving sales data. My name is James Johnson, and I serve as the director of the DLGF Data Analysis Division. Additionally, I am happy to have my fellow data team member, Charles Gordon, co-presenting with me today. Charles is the DLGF Senior Tax Data Analyst, and in his role, serves as the primary point of contact when it comes to handling inquiries sent to the Gateway SDF mailbox. This webinar, which will last roughly an hour, will focus on three different areas related to the sales disclosure data. First, the information covered in today's webinar will provide you with a greater understanding of the different items that you will need to consider while you complete your review and validation of 2020 sales disclosure transactions. Additionally, we will be discussing the process for uploading sales data to Gateway SDF, including doing a demonstration of the file upload process after we go through today's PowerPoint presentation. And finally, we will discuss the compliance review process that the department conducts on sales disclosure data during the months of January and February. Please note that the focus of today's webinar is on the current sales disclosure form and sales data files that are being used for 2020 sales transactions. Towards the end of our presentation, we will briefly touch on a few items related to the revised sales disclosure form that is set to go into effect on January 1st, 2021, but the focus of today's webinar will pertain to the current version of the sales disclosure form that has been used for close to a decade now. One other quick item about today's webinar, as Jenny had mentioned earlier, we very much welcome your questions. If you do have any questions that come up during today's presentation, please feel free to type those into the chat box at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx window. If time allows, we'll try to address some of those questions at the end of today's webinar. Additionally, we'll be compiling the questions and the department's responses to those questions into an FAQ document that will be posted to the department's webinar page in the near future. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into our presentation. So if there is just one date to take away from today's webinar, one date to drill into your minds, it would be February 1st. Indiana code requires that on or before February 1st, county assessors shall submit all sales disclosure records that have a conveyance date during the preceding year. So saying that differently, county assessors must submit all sales disclosure records that occurred in 2020 by no later than February 1st, 2021. And just as a heads up, I believe February 1st, 2021 is a Monday next year. So if you have any concerns about leaving at the end of January or heading out for the weekend and you come back Monday on February 1st and you forgot something, I would probably recommend uploading your sales that Friday before the weekend just to get them out of the way. But you do technically have until February 1st, 2021 to submit all 2020 sales. Beyond the requirement of submitting all sales by February 1st of 2021, there is actually another requirement in Indiana Administrative Code that talks about the frequency of submitting sales disclosure data. And this pertains to those counties that use a third-party software sales disclosure system to manage their sales. So this would be, in the instance, if you use a software system like AS2 or GUTS or XSoft, which the vast majority of you do use one of those three systems, there's a requirement in 50 IC 26, which is the administrative rule that governs standards for the sales disclosure software system. And that requirement is that you need to upload your sales to the Gateway SDF database on a weekly basis. It's safe to say that the department historically has not been enforcing that requirement on a very rigid basis, namely because we realized it would be very challenging to have all counties that use a third-party sales disclosure software system to complete their review validation of sales on a weekly basis and try to get those uploaded to Gateway SDF. That said, we have been making a concerted effort this year to encourage counties to do a more frequent upload of their sales disclosure data to Gateway SDF instead of just waiting until January of the following year to do one big upload of all your previous year's sales. That way, it helps keep the county kind of, on track with managing their sales as they come in, doing the review and validation of their sales as they come in instead of waiting until January the following year to try to review and validate all the sales that came in during the previous year. So if you're able to review and validate sales on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and submit that information via Gateway SDF, that is a preferred approach. And also the benefit of submitting the sales on a more frequent basis instead of just once a year is that the information gets uploaded to Gateway SDF, which then is made available to the public through our sales disclosure search site. So members of the public can actually get access to sales that have occurred in your counties throughout the year instead of having to wait until January or February of the following year to see what sales occurred in your county. So again, we've been making an effort through the course of this year to encourage counties to do a more frequent upload of their sales disclosure data. I believe there's a comment made in the Commissioner's weekly email that goes out every week about submitting your sales on at least a quarterly basis. Quarterly is what we're going for right now. If you could do it more frequently than that, great. But we are mindful that trying to submit sales on a weekly basis may be a little overzealous on our part. So, but just want to point that out to the counties that actually use AS2, XSoft, or GUTS for managing their sales. So for county assessors, things to keep in mind while reviewing your sales disclosure records that you enter into your system before you actually submit it to the state. Please ensure that all your sales records have, at a bare minimum, the following: that you have at least one buyer and one seller listed with each sales disclosure transaction, that you have valid dates listed for all date fields on the form. So this would be sales date, conveyance date, transfer date, and the date the form was received. That you have a valid sales price listed in your system. That you have valid parcel numbers and state-assigned taxing districts also associated with the property numbers on that sales disclosure transaction, and that you have a valid property class code. These are all items that the data team will be looking at when we do our compliance review of your sales disclosure data after you submit it to us. So at a bare minimum, these are the items that when you're going through and reviewing your sales disclosure records, that you want to have valid entries for these different items here. Another item for county assessors to keep in mind while they're reviewing their sales and before they actually submit them to the DLGF, assuming that the sales disclosure form is indeed a completed form and you're going through as a county assessor and you're reviewing the form, in the assessor section of the sales disclosure form, there's a question number 11, that says, is the form complete? And you want to verify that if the form is indeed complete, that question is checked yes. The reason you want to verify that question is checked yes is because we use that criteria in order to pull the records from our database when we're doing our sales review. So if you have a form that looks like it's been completed, but that question 11 is checked no or is left blank, then when you submit your sales data to us and the DLGF pulls down the sales data from the Gateway SDF database, we will not actually be pulling that record as part of our review, even though it might indeed need to be reviewed as part of our compliance process. So please verify question 11 that if you have a completed sales form, that answer is checked as yes to that question. So let's talk money. Specifically, let's talk about the revenue reconciliation process, which is a joint effort between the county assessor's office and the county auditor's office. Under the assessor section of the sales disclosure form, in question 12, the question asked, is a state sales fee required? And if that question is checked yes, so there is a state sales fee required, then the county auditor's office will need to verify if that fee has indeed been collected on that particular sales transaction. The reason this is important is because if there are discrepancies between question number 12, which again is the state sales fee required under the assessor section, and then question number 7 under the auditor's section, is the state fee collected, then that might potentially result in the county falling outside our tolerance level when we do our revenue compliance check. And Charles will talk more about that particular check when he goes over our compliance review process of sales disclosure data. But basically, the revenue check is the mechanism that our team uses to verify that as a county, you have submitted all your sales to us, all your 2020 sales to us. So if there's a discrepancy there, either it's going to look like the county has over-collected revenue on sales disclosures that they should not have collected revenue on, or that they're potentially under-reporting their sales to us. So it's important to have this reconciliation process done between the two offices before you actually submit your sales data to us. Talking a little bit more about the revenue reconciliation process, certain sales disclosure transactions are eligible to be assessed the state sales disclosure fee, and this is a fee in the amount of $10. Half of that amount is retained by the county, so $5 of the $10 is kept by the county, and the other half, the other $5, is remitted to the state as part of the settlement process. Specifically for county auditors, we ask that you verify that you've completed the fall 2020 settlement process with the auditor estates office, and that as part of that process, you've remitted any additional state sales disclosure fee revenue collected since the spring settlement process to the auditor estates office. So again, that item right there is applicable for the county auditors, but it's important that in terms of the reconciliation process, the county auditor will need to submit all sales disclosure revenue that's been collected via the settlement process, or reported via the settlement process, I should say, for both the spring and fall of 2020. So once the county assessor's office has finished its review of sales disclosure records and has also completed the revenue reconciliation process with the county auditor's office, the county assessor's office should be ready to submit its sales data to the state. And the submission process will take on a slightly different feel depending on what system you actually use for managing your sales disclosure records. For counties that are currently using the Assessor Edit functionality in Gateway SDF, you're going to be completing your review and validation of your county sales in the Assessor Edit module. Now, there are only a small handful of counties that are still using the Assessor Edit module, namely because through the course of this year, as you all are aware, the Assessor Edit module is actually being phased out. Counties that are still using it, I think there's maybe only 4 throughout the state that are still currently using Assessor Edit module. You'll have access to do your review and validation of 2020 sales, but come 2021, you will need to have switched over to a different certified sales disclosure system for managing your 2021 sales going forward. But if you are still currently using the Assessor Edit functionality in Gateway SDF, you're going to complete your review and validation for all 2020 sales in the Assessor Edit module. And once you've completed that validation, you will need to email the department data inbox at data@dlgf.in.gov. To confirm that all your sales have been reviewed and submitted via the Assessor Edit module in Gateway SDF. It's important to know that there's not a separate file upload for these counties that are using the Assessor Edit module functionality. Basically, once you're done completed with your review of your sales, then that will take care of your data submission, assuming that you then have sent the email notification to the department's data inbox saying that you've completed your review, validation of your sales, and you're ready for the department to start looking at that data. So for the vast majority of all the other counties, I think there are 88 counties that actually use a third-party software vendor. You will be generating from your sales disclosure system 3 different text files, the sale disc file, sale contact file, and sale parcel file. And all three of those files, they will all 3 need to be generated. Those 3 files will be uploaded to the Gateway SDF database. Once you've uploaded your sales to the Gateway SDF database, you'll need to email the department data inbox to confirm that all your sales have been reviewed by your office and been submitted via Gateway SDF and that you're ready for the data team to start reviewing those sales. We do ask that this confirmation email come from the county assessor's office instead of the third-party vendor. So if you have your vendor actually upload your sales, that's fine. You can, there's not a problem with that, but we still ask that once those sales have been uploaded, your confirmation email comes from your office instead of from the vendor that uploaded the sales. And for the counties that use a third-party software vendor to manage their sales disclosure systems and that have historically uploaded their sales data on just an annual basis, so you wait until January of the following year to do one big upload of all your previous year sales, we ask that you please ensure that your sales data includes records for the complete 2020 calendar year. So if you're going to wait until January of next year to do one upload of all those sales, please verify that that upload includes records from January 1st to December 31st of 2020. And one other important item regarding the data submission process, regardless if you use the Assessor Edit functionality in Gateway SDF to manage your sales, or if you use a third-party system to manage your sales, you do not need to submit or email the sales data separately to the Legislative Services Agency. In fact, there was just a requirement, just a change made in Indiana Code this past session earlier this year that essentially has stopped the requirement of emailing data files, whether they're real property, personal property, sales data, tax data, to both the DLGF and LSA. All the data files now are submitted directly to the DLGF, and then we in turn will make the data available to LSA. So you do not need to submit your sales data files to both LSA and DLGF. They will only go to the DLGF. So in order to help the department with our review of the county's submitted sales disclosure fee revenues, we will be reaching out to the county auditor's office to ask them to email us a copy of their county's sales disclosure fee fund report. And that fund report will go to the department's data inbox. Again, that email address is data@dlgf.in.gov. This previous review cycle, so earlier in 2020, when we were looking at your 2019 sales, that was the first time that we took the proactive approach to reaching out to the county auditor's offices. I think we reached out to them in December of last year to ask the county auditors to submit to us their sales disclosure fee fund report. Before that, it was kind of done on an ad hoc basis. We would wait until we were actually conducting our review of a county sales data, and then if we noticed that there was a discrepancy in that revenue check that we run, we would then reach out to the county auditor's office and ask them to submit their fund report to us. So to help expedite our review process, we last year started reaching out in advance proactively to the county auditors and saying, please submit this fund report to us. We will use this as a resource if needed when we're going through our review process. And we're going to do the same thing for this upcoming review cycle. So probably sometime next month and into January, we'll be reaching out to the county auditors to ask them to submit their fee fund report to our team so that we can use that or have that available as a resource when reviewing your county sales data. The fund report should provide a transaction log of the state's sales disclosure fees that were collected during the previous calendar year. And this would also include those amounts that were remitted to the state during the spring 2020 and fall 2020 settlement periods. All right, so I'm going to actually turn over the presentation now to my colleague, Charles Gordon, and Charles is going to talk about what Gateway SDF is, the submission process for the data, as well as talk about the compliance review process that we conduct on the sales data. So Charles, it is all yours now.
There we go. Can everybody hear me? I had a little glitch there. Good morning, everybody. It's Charles Gordon. As James said, I am the Senior Tax Data Analyst for the Data Division. I want to apologize up front if I have to clear my throat a lot. I am a little bit under the weather, have been for the last couple of days, but don't worry, it's not the Rona. It's just a bad cold. So I do apologize again, like I said, if I do have to clear my throat quite a bit. What is Gateway SDF? Basically, Gateway SDF is an online portal used for the gathering of sales disclosure forms by counties that use Gateway SDF, or the collection of sales data by the third-party vendors that most of you use. It's a very easy website. I enjoy using it. We have had some issues lately with the search functionality, but the upload portion of Gateway seems to work pretty well. The other thing that works is that as you upload your sales, Gateway SDF also serves as a search mechanism for the public to view sales within their county for different comparisons, such as property appraisers, real estate agents. Those individuals can look up those sales as once they're uploaded for their comparisons. Why is my computer not working now? Okay, this is what Gateway SDF looks like. I'm sure most of you have been here. The thing I really like about Gateway SDF, which I'm not sure if the functionality that I'm about to mention is still going to be there once we go to the new system for the 2021 sales, is that Gateway SDF is what I like to call a self-assigning system. Basically, you don't have to email me to get a username or password. If you have someone in your office who needs to do a sales upload and doesn't have that information, they simply click the new users link and then fill out the appropriate information, check the box that they work in the assessor's office, and create their own username and password, and voila, they have access to Gateway SDF. For most of us, however, if you already have your username and password, you simply click the returning users link, and that'll take us to this page here where you have several options. For most of us, we're just simply going to be going to the file upload to upload our files. So of course you would click that link underneath the green banner. And most of what I'm going through now is for those of you who use the third-party vendors. If you are one of the few counties still using the Gateway SDF system, obviously you wouldn't go through this. You would simply just go through the assessor edit, verify your sales, validate them, and then those sales are automatically uploaded into our system. So now here's what the file upload page looks like. Once we actually get through the PowerPoint presentation, I will actually walk you through a live upload of sales, with a clean upload. the other one with an upload that has errors, so you can see what that process looks like and how they differ, and how to get information on what errored out to your vendor. But anyway, here on this page, you'll need to upload all 3 of your sales files at one time. So you'll simply just browse the location of your files wherever they're stored on your computer. Once all 3 are listed there, you simply just click the upload button and it'll start the process to upload your sales. Now, this process does take a little bit of time. I do get emails saying, hey, I just uploaded my sales, but I just get a lot of zeros and it doesn't tell me that the upload's complete. Our system basically reviews all 3 files to make sure that you have sales disclosure numbers match in all 3 files, dates match in files. It does numerous cross checks. So the upload process can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes depending on how many sales you're actually uploading. But what you should see is towards the bottom, you should see your username and upload date. If it says true under completed, that means that upload has been completed. If it doesn't, then that upload is still working. While it's not visible on this screen, there is a refresh page button, which I'll show you in the live upload. So you can just refresh the page and see if it does calculate that information for you. Now, during our review, we try to answer, or our review is centered around 2 questions, I should say. Have all the sales for a specified conveyance period been submitted? And does the SDF data submitted appear to be complete and accurate? And when we talk about that, that's what James went over earlier. Do we have buyers and sellers listed? Is there a sales price, taxing district, parcel numbers? Is all is all that stuff provided and in the correct format? And we like to view the sales data review process as the primer for your ratio study. Obviously, we go through, do our sales review. Once we send out your compliance report, we also include that information, your assessment field rep on that information. So that triggers them to start their process as well. But a couple of things that our review does not answer is whether a particular sale should be marked valid for trending, or if that particular sale should be included in your ratio study. That's something you would need to discuss with your assessment field rep if you need to answer for either one of those questions. When we do our review, what we will be mailing you is 2 documents. The first one is your issues workbook. That's going to be an itemized breakdown of any records that we had possible errors. Sometimes we realize that based on our checks, we may be looking for information that, based on our interpretation, looks wrong. However, when you look at your property records or your assessment information, it's correct, or the sales data, I should say. It is correct on your end. However, it just pops up on our end as a possible error. Then the other thing is going to be the sales disclosure checklist. That's your actual compliance report. It's going to show you the different checks we do, number of items that erred out, the percentage of those errors to the total number of records. And based on that percentage, we determine whether it is a compliant or non-compliant report. Now, on your issues workbook, you're going to receive, it's going to have 4 tabs in there. Each tab is going to have different checks, but the most important check is the very first tab, which is your missing critical data. I'll go over what all these are individually here in a second. But your missing critical data is the most important. That's actually the one that probably has about a 90% weight on your compliance status right there. Then we have duplicate parcels, invalid multi-parcels, and then anything that's marked for valuable consideration. Now, in your missing critical data, basically this is information, like I said, this is about 90% of what your compliance is based on. And we're looking for anything missing sales price, taxing districts don't match between the parcel file and the sales file, parcel numbers missing, information like that, which is going to be considered missing critical data. Then we have the duplicate parcels tab, and basically this is anything that has errored out, single parcel sales that have errored out because we have more than one sales record for that parcel in the file. So basically, I see this sometimes if there is a title company has entered the information, and then for some reason they take a form to your office and you re-enter that information is usually how this occurs. Or somebody has entered the information and then somebody has come along at a later date. Didn't look like this information was entered, so they went ahead and entered it again. That's how this happens. But again, this is just, your duplicate parcels is more of an informational check that we do. Your invalid multi-parcels is pretty much the same thing as your duplicate parcels. The only difference is obviously this involves multi-parcel sales. And then of course we have the valuable consideration tab. This is anything that's marked as no for valuable consideration, but has a sales price of greater than 0. Now, the report you receive is going to be a 2-page report, and we'll break this down section by section here in a moment. But this is pretty much going to give you what it looks like. The first page is going to be primarily all the checks that we do on your file. And then page 2 is going to be your conditions page, which is a lot of your yes and no questions that we ask you to verify as part of your validation process. Now, the top of the form is basically self-explanatory. It's just going to be your county name, the date we created the report, the date we received your sales file, your compliance status, and then corrections for future submissions. We base that on what type of information errors out. And then, of course, comments is pretty much always going to be just see your attached file or your issues workbook for additional information to know what parcels actually errored out. Then we have our revenue check, which is what James alluded to earlier. And what we do with this is we compare the revenue submitted by the county auditor for sales disclosures that they submit to the auditor of state to the number of sales that are fee eligible within your sales file. And the reason we do that is to verify that we have all the sales information. For easy math, let's just say a county auditor submitted $10,000 in revenue. Based on that number, we would expect to see roughly about 2,000 sales that are fee eligible in your sales file. That doesn't mean you're only going to have 2,000 sales. You could have 2,400, 2,500, but some of those obviously are not fee eligible. So we just want to get an idea. It gives us a good target area of what we should be looking for. Now, on this particular check, we have a kind of a strange tolerance on this. We're not looking for a 100% match on the revenue. Our tolerance is anywhere a 90% match to 105% match. And the reason we do that is because our sales data is on a calendar year. It runs January 1 through December 31st of each year. However, the auditor's revenue or settlement periods actually run December 1 through November 30th. So we have a month difference there. So we allow for a wider tolerance on this particular check. Now, if you are outside of that tolerance, does that mean that your sales data is going to fail? No. What we're going to do is we're going to verify with the county auditor. We're going to do a visual check of the fund report ourselves. We're basically going to audit that. We're going to email your office, ask you to verify that all sales have been submitted. And then if all sales have been submitted, the auditor's fund report is correct, then usually we'll take that to James, sit down, have a discussion, and as long as everybody feels okay, usually we'll let that go. I've let counties go at 108%, and I've seen them go out as low as 85% on this particular check. But our goal is 90 to 105% on this revenue check. Underneath the revenue check section, we have a number of sales reported, and basically this is a running tally of a year-to-year comparison, and then a 3-year average comparison and a 5-year average comparison to the number of sales. On this particular county, you can see over a 5-year period, average, the very bottom line there, number 18, they've had a 12.1% increase in their sales over the last 5 years. So we're just kind of looking at that just for trending purposes. This section does not affect your compliance status whatsoever. It's more just an informational section, so you can see what direction your county is going and the trends that we're seeing when we run the data. Now, like I said earlier, the missing critical data is the most important section that we are looking at. And what we're going to start with is the number of sales disclosures that are marked valuable consideration and are fee eligible versus the total number of SDFs in your file. Then we're going to go through and we're manually going to review your missing critical data section. Our check actually spits out the spreadsheets, and then we go through and basically check them. There are keywords that we're looking for. So if we see a parcel, we get this question a lot. Hey, I don't have a parcel number for this particular sale yet because it was a split. That's one of the things we look for when we manually review the missing critical data, is that if it says that it's a split or combined in the comment section, we can exclude that particular parcel from the missing critical data section. So that's one thing I would like you to kind of look at, that if you know that a parcel is a split or combined, to make sure that you mark it that it's a split or combined in the comments section so that we know to exclude those from that particular check. We do that for both single and multi-parcel sales. And then basically that's compared, the number of records is compared to the line 20 there to get us a percentage. In this particular county, they only had a 0.7% missing critical rate, so they're well within our tolerance. The tolerance on the missing critical is only a 2% tolerance, so just bear that in mind. Then of course we scroll down and then we have our number of duplicates. This is also a little bit confusing because 25 and 26 go together, and what we do with this is, this goes back to that duplicate errors tab. We count each sales disclosure ID in that file. So in this case, there were 35 that errored out, but there were only 17 unique sales. So, and how we calculate that is based on parcel number, SDF, sales disclosure date, conveyance date, I should say. And we kind of pair them all up based on that information, and then we count the SDF ID numbers for each pairing. So in this case, we had 35 parcels that aired out, but there were 17 pairings. And then, of course, we do the same for the invalid multi-parcels, with the exception of the unique sales. We had 4. And then we also, then the next section is the pay 20 parcel match. And, excuse me, basically what we're going to list here is just what is the current status of your parcel file. Hopefully by the time we get to the sales review, all of you are in a pending status on your real property for the fall review. And then, of course, the next line is the percentage of match for your pay 20 parcel data versus the sales information. We would like this to be as close to 100% as possible. We do take into account splits on this. We add those back in. So in this case, this particular county was at 96.3%, so that's good. And as you can see in line 30, they had 639 splits in that particular county for this sales review period. So we're good there. Oh, excuse me. Now comes a section that our assessment division has asked us to cover several times, and this is the valid for trending section. What we're looking for here, and I may get my percentages mixed up. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But line 33 and 34 are important. Valid for trending as a percentage of total sales disclosure for records reported for, obviously this will say 2020. I believe they want that number to be 35% or higher. And then valid for trending as a percentage of total SDF records marked for valuable consideration and are fee eligible. I believe they want that to be above 55%. And the reason for that is that way they know they have a good set of records for the preparation of their for your ratio study. And can go ahead and start working on your I think it's called the reconciliation file that they send to you. Again, we do a 5-year average on these, or a 5-year average, and a 3-year average on those as well, so you get a idea of how your percentages have been trending. And then basically the bottom of the form is just all those yes/no questions. And what we're looking for here is that if we add the yeses and the nos for each of these, that they actually match the total number of sales disclosures submitted. 99.999% of the time, they are going to match. So I think I've only seen them not match once for some reason. Of course, the only two that won't match is line 67 and line 70 because of the questions that are involved. Now, if your county's data is deemed non-compliant by the data division, we're going to send you a non-compliant report. And basically what that would entail then is just you to re-review your sales data, make any necessary corrections within your system, do another extract of that data, and then resubmit your sales data for another review. If your county is deemed to be compliant, that basically, like I said earlier, we're going to include your assessment field rep on your compliant email, and that signals them to go ahead and start working on your reconciliation file, start prepping anything they need for your ratio study. And I'm going to hand this back over to James for here.
All right. Thank you, Charles. And this is actually, we're towards the end of our PowerPoint slide deck here. So we'll be jumping over to the actual file upload demo in just a moment. But looking ahead, after we get past the 2020 sales submission process, there are several important items that we ask you to keep in mind. One, probably most critical, is that there will be a revised sales disclosure form and corresponding data files that will go into effect on January 1st of 2021. Many of you probably had the opportunity to participate or watch the department's webinar that was given last month by our Assessment Division Director, Barry Wood, and our Deputy General Counsel, Emily Chrysler. They went over in greater detail the revised sales disclosure form. Again, that's slated to go into effect on January 1st, 2021. And the data files that you will be submitting, uploading to Gateway SDF, based on the revised form, will also go into effect at that point. Another item that we've made all the applicable counties aware of, the Assessor edit functionality of Gateway SDF is being phased out through the course of this year. Any counties that are still using the Assessor edit functionality, which I think there are only 4 remaining in the state, those 4 counties will need to transition to one of the 3 certified sales disclosure systems and have that system in place to start accepting data entry of 2021 sales in January of next year. So if you're currently using the Assessor Edit module of Gateway SDF, you can continue using it to complete your review, validation of your 2020 sales. But for any 2021 sales going forward, those will have to be data entered into your newly selected sales disclosure system. So whether that's GUTS' sales disclosure module, XSOF sales disclosure module, or AS2 ScanMan, you will need to be using one of those 3 certified systems by January of next year to start data entry for your 2021 sales. And then finally, an item that's going to basically affect everyone, because starting in 2021, everyone will be doing an upload of their sales data to the state. There will be a new Gateway SDF file upload that is currently, right now, it's being developed and finalized by our Information Systems Division here at the DLGF, and we are targeting for that to go live during the first quarter of 2021. The site will be accessed via the same location where, as county assessors, you would go to submit your annual PWO report. So where you log in the Gateway and you go and click on Assessor's Report and upload your or submit your annual PWO report information, on that main menu there of the Gateway main homepage, there's going to be a new application for county assessors to use for uploading their sales data to the state. My understanding, I've seen the preliminary test environment of the upload. It looks very similar to what you're using right now for uploading your sales data. There's going to be some modifications to it, but it will have a similar feel to what you're working with. And we will be providing additional information on this new upload site as soon as it is ready to go live during the first month or so of 2021. So again, those are things to be on the lookout as we go into next year. Our focus again today is on your 2020 sales. So we don't want to get you too overwhelmed right now with doing your 2020 sales review, but also having to switch over to the revised form for 2021. So, but we did want to let you know of these items after you get past your 2020 sales review and submission process. So with that said, I'm going to actually let Charles take the lead again, and he's going to walk us through doing a demo of the actual file upload process via Gateway SDF. And Charles, I think you want to share your web browser with us.
There we go. Just took me a second. Okay. Like I said earlier, this is basically a self-assigning system, but however, James just alluded that this system will no longer be effective once the new upload is brought online. But for now, we'll just do a live update live upload, just so you can see what it looks like for at least this last cycle. Like I said, most of us are going to just click on the returning users link, enter your information, log in, and then we're going to go to the file upload link to bring us to this page. I'm going to do a clean upload first. Now, I do get a lot of questions. It says over here, current date is Shelby with this date. This area you can disregard. Basically, when you do an upload, it's going to read the header information. That's how it knows where to assign your data versus what's listed over here. So you can disregard this area over here. But basically, you would just have to link all three of your files. So let me do this real quick. It's going to work for me. And it's thinking. And once you have all three of your files linked, just simply click the upload button. And you should get a message here that says your files are in the queue for processing. Like I said, these can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much data is in your file. But if you notice, there is a refresh data link right underneath that. There's also one down here underneath the upload history. So if you click on that, either one of them, what you're going to see is this very top line. We're doing upload today. Completed, it says false with a lot of question marks. That's basically just letting you know that the process is still in the works, that it hasn't been completed. Now, if it says true and you still have the question marks, then there's probably something wrong with your file, but you should get an error count over here, which I'll show you when we do a upload with errors. But like I said, this could take anywhere, this could take a few minutes. So you can sit here and just keep clicking the refresh button until it finally goes.
And Charles, while you're doing that, one thing I'll chime in, for counties that if you're going to do just an annual upload of your sales, so come January of next year, you're going to do one upload of all 2020 sales, depending on how large your data set is, if you are encountering errors with uploading, what you might want to try first is breaking your sales data down into like quarters. So you may want to try uploading just the first quarter of 2020 sales, let that process, and then upload your second quarter of 2020 sales, let that process, then third quarter, and then fourth quarter. Again, if you're a smaller county that does not have a lot of sales records, chances are the upload should work smoothly, but it's safe to say that come January, Gateway SDF is definitely at its maximum capacity because that's when counties are doing their uploads, getting all their 2020 sales in. So if you have a large data set, you might want to first try breaking it down into quarters and then uploading your data via the quarters so everything gets uploaded successfully. I see there was a question that was asked by one of the members here attending the webinar. If we download sales through the year, do we need to download those sales again before February 1st? The answer to that question is no. If you have already submitted sales during 2020, so let's say you've been doing a quarterly upload, so you already have 3 quarters of your 2020 sales submitted in Gateway SDF, then technically, come January of next year, you would only need to upload your fourth quarter sales to Gateway SDF. Now, that said, if you have the concern about, oh, I can't remember what actual data, what my last quarter I uploaded or what my conveyance date cutoff was, you can, if you would like, you could do another complete annual upload. And assuming that the SDF ID for all your records has stayed the same, that there's not been any change in those SDF IDs for the records that you previously uploaded, what will happen is that on your next upload, that particular SDF record will just be updated with the values in your new upload. It shouldn't create a duplicate record or entry. It should just update the values that you already submitted. So again, you could do a complete upload of all your sales if you want to, but if you've already been doing quarterly uploads, then all you would really need to do come January of next year is your last fourth quarter upload of your sales. So that's I know, kind of a long-winded answer to that question, but there are a couple ways on how they handle that. And while we're waiting for the status to change from false to true, if you all have any other questions regarding the sales submission process, please feel free to type them into the chat box. We'll be happy to answer those while we're waiting for the filing process.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Now, if you look at the top line again, you'll see that we now have a completed is true. We have an update of 85 records, 85 disclosures, 324 records in the contact file, and 86 parcels in the parcel file with a 0 error count. So that was a good upload. And as many of you can see, obviously, it does take some time to process it. So now we'll go through and we'll do an upload with errors. So we'll just go back and do the same thing. Now, since this one has errors, I believe it moves a little bit quicker because I think once it starts sensing errors, it just goes ahead and starts listing those. So just click the upload. Okay, now this one definitely moved a little bit quicker, as you can see. It already shows that we're done. And we have question marks underneath all of our columns except for our error count. It's telling us we have 12 errors. Whenever you see this, the easiest way to figure out what's wrong is simply just to the left of your username, you'll see this button that says See Errors. If you click on that, it'll bring up a list of items that have errored out and what files are affected. So as you can see, a lot of it's in the sale contact file. There's 2 in the sale disk, 2 in the sale parcel. It'll also tell you the parcel SDF ID. So in this case, if you notice, we should be looking for a 2020 sale. But for some reason, this is saying County 999, and we don't have a sale year there, or this one says 1900. So that's why those are going to error out. It's also going to tell you, such as this one here, as County 99. 99 does not exist, so that's going to error out. So you could either take a screenshot, or if you have a snipping tool or something, take a shot of this, send this to your vendor, have them make the corrections to your file, and then just resubmit that information back to us. And we'll start we'll go ahead and pull down your data once we know you have a good upload. So then we can just go back and we're good.
All right. Okay. Well, Charles, thanks for doing the file upload demonstration there. All right, everyone, we're at 11:01, so we have come to the end of our presentation today. If you happen to have a sales data-related question that comes to you after this webinar concludes, please feel free to email that question to the data inbox. Again, that email address is data@dlgf.in.gov. Also, we will be posting today's PowerPoint presentation, the FAQ document, a webinar survey, and the continuing education credit form for today's session, department's webinar page. And if I'm not mistaken, that the department will be sending out a separate email correspondence with a link to this information as well. So with that, we would like to thank everyone once again for attending today's webinar, and wish everyone a great rest of their day.